Have you ever wanted to quit YouTube? How big is your home? What's something I wish I didn't do? How do I want to landscape? When are we actually going to move in? If you're new here, my name is Biata. I'm building my dream home and homestead from scratch, learning all new trades along the way, predominantly alone, but sometimes with a helping hand. And I'm vlogging the entire journey, sharing the ups and downs. And right now I'm on the finishing stages of the home, which brings me to this video. I'm usually building and vlogging the experience. This week's video is not going to be me building, but me answering your questions because I want to make the best videos I possibly can, and sometimes that means taking a week off. A few weeks ago, I asked if you had any questions, and I'm gonna go over the answers here. Out of all of the trades that you have experienced while building your home, which is your favorite and which is your least favorite so far? I have not prepared the answers. I think my favorite thing about this journey is that I don't really get sick of a trade, because by the time I'm done that trade, I get to move on to something new, and it keeps my busy brain active, and I love the learning process of most projects. I wouldn't necessarily say I have a least favorite trade, but I can say I did get sick of plumbing underneath the slab. That was a lot of work. I was really tired of doing that project. I was kind of over it and I wanted to move on. And I also found the pressure test for the ABS drainage plumbing gave me the most difficulties. And so I wouldn't say it's necessarily my least favorite trade, but I would say I was the least prepared on how much code there would be when it comes to plumbing, if that makes sense. And I also don't think I can say I have a favorite trade. I don't know, I really like excavating, but then I also have times where I go to bed at night and I think about some dangerous things that have happened while I've been excavating, like a root flying out at the glass and shattering the glass. And I know the van wives had a whoopsie and a log came in. And so it scares me at the same time. I think you have to have a healthy respect when it comes to excavating. I do really enjoy electrical, but then again, I also find it a little bit boring. What else? I really like framing. I do, but I don't know if I would like that as a full-time career option. Like to frame a home and then to move on to the next step would be fine. But I also think as a framer, it would be really cool being able to build up entire homes, and you get to see, I think, the most satisfaction of like wood to structure. So I do really like that about rough carpentry. Gotta say, I have a deep love and respect for tree felling as well. And I think I could be a pretty good tree feller professionally if I did the training for it. I don't know. I also really like mudding. I know you know that seems ridiculous, but I just think I have the finesse for it and like, I guess, artistry for it. I'm good with that kind of stuff, I think. Before this, I was like very artsy. I'm a very artsy person, if you didn't know that about me. I love interior design. That was my second choice for my career when I was going to university. My first choice ended up being graphic design and management, and then I dropped out. And I was a stay-at-home mom. And now I'm a home builder and YouTuber. Weird. I'm trying to group all of these questions together because a lot of them are similar. What was the hardest trade to learn? I think plumbing. I do. I don't know why. It just like really got to me. But I'm thankful for the plumbers who kind of came to my rescue and answered my questions, because without them, oh man, what has been my favorite part of the build so far? I think either putting up the walls, like the wall raising day, or I think seeing like the drywall, mudding, and painting come together in this room. I truly think my most favorite parts of the build are going to be finishing. Not necessarily because I think I'm going to be a great finisher. Maybe I will be, but I think because you're seeing the product come to life, whereas like running wire, running plumbing, running HVAC, it's boring. Actually, one of my least favorite parts of the build was insulating the ducting for my HVAC, my ERV system in the attic. That had me some type of way. I did not appreciate that. Okay, during the build, what were your proudest and most heartbreaking moments, and what did you learn? My proudest moments, I gotta say, being good at mudding. This may just be like because it's so recent, but it was one of those things that so many people told me I can't and I shouldn't. And I feel like I did a very good job in a very bright room that is gonna have the most issues when it comes to mudding imperfections. And I feel like I did a half decent job. Another proud moment was framing these vaulted walls. That was so cool. They look really good. And just like designing the home in general. Like I designed designed the entire house on a piece of paper, and I love my design. I do. For like us on the smaller end of a home, I really love the design of this home. It feels very homey and like together. Like it doesn't feel like our rooms are too far apart, and they're not too close either. And it just feels like really cozy and comfortable. And this vaulted ceiling is so cool for vocals. Oh my gosh, when I'm in here working during the day and singing, it's so much more fun singing in this room, which I think is going to be really fun because we are a musical family and my husband has the voice of an angel. Oh, most heartbreaking moments. These darn sliding doors that I have to rip the siding out on the outside because they're leaking. I don't know if anything else has been overly heartbreaking. I think not getting into the house last winter, and like that was the most emotional thing for me because I felt like a bad mom and I really just wanted us to be able to be living in here. Okay, so I got a question on would you be able to do a sketch of your property, like the shape, and potentially share any future builds or plans for the land. So I'm not gonna show like a sketch of the land. I'm so sorry. That worries me a little bit just being online, but I will share the plans of what I want to do with the land. So I for sure want to build a chicken coop. That's why we bought more land, because we didn't have enough land to have chickens at our old home that was on 1/10 of an acre. Another build that I want to do soon will be my husband's studio in the woods. I think that he has put so much on the line for my dream, and I know a lot of people get in the comments, but he has put so much on the line for me to follow my dreams of wanting more land. This started with the want and desire for more land, but also it actually started with the desire to want to create an income online. And it was a huge leap of faith. I was not making very much money. I was doing some things on the side as a stay-at-home mom, but I wasn't making enough money for this build to happen. So I think he deserves his own little space. It's always been his dream to have a studio in the woods where he can be creative and have his own space. I think that's a really beautiful way to have partnership, is like sometimes you have to kind of take a step back for your partner to be able to follow their dreams too. And he has done that hands down for me many times, and he deserves that too. And I'm so excited to build him a space. I'm so excited, like, to design it with him and to give something to him. Oh, we were talking about future plans on the property. I would love a greenhouse. We'll see. I would love like a wood-fired hot tub, maybe a garage. Actually, that was one of the questions. Are you planning on putting up a garage or workshop? Maybe. I truthfully don't know. I'm having a hard time figuring out where I would place it where it wouldn't block any views of the windows from the home. More land questions. When you bought the land, did it have any environmental restrictions? If not, are you thinking of landscaping the immediate waterfront? So there were very minor restrictions, and it really only had to do with the septic. So it needs to be, I think, 100 feet back. It's probably less than that. I'll put the proper answer here on the screen, away from the wetlands. But what's great about my property is the wetlands are not environmentally protected. When you have environmentally protected wetlands, you can't even cut a tree down in your wetlands. And so we can do what we want to do with the wetlands, but is that necessarily ethical? So I'm trying to treat the wetlands with respect. That's why I did clear a bulk of the trees out of there in the winter, but I kept a ton of the trees as well to ensure that birds had somewhere to land. And there's a lot of like deadfall in the wetlands because the wetlands used to be a forest and the beavers built up the wetlands. It probably was just a little stream running through, and now it's a wetland, it's a swamp. And so there's dead trees in there, which is great for turtles to lay on in the sun. It's great for turtles and fish to be able to hide in the wetlands. Now, would I like to have a little bit of a deeper pond right at the front? Yes, I would. And I think that digging out just that one spot, it's not necessarily the most ethical, but it's only like a small portion of wetlands. Whereas we actually own a good, I think we own like 6 to 8 acres of wetlands. We own a fair amount of wetlands. plans. So I'm trying to be as ethical as possible. And what are the plans of landscaping around the pond? I would really like this whole section in front of the house to be an area to grow food. I just don't know how that's going to come together quite yet. It does take quite a bit of time to get a garden going and to get that portion of a homestead going. And the goal this year really is to get the mortgage on the home. Like, that is the number one. We need to lower our interest rates, so we need to consolidate the debt from the home and get a mortgage, which means we need to get our final inspection on the home. And then we can start thinking about more fun projects when it comes to the rest of the property. And that might be 2026, honestly. All the landscaping, all the homestead stuff, the gardening, the deck. I don't know if I'll get to it this year. I wanted to, but I don't think I will. Which brings us to the next question. At what point in the build do you think you and your family deem the house livable? And is the trailer on its last legs? So that's the thing with this build, is that like really soon the house could be livable. We would need a sink in the bathroom and a toilet in the bathroom. We would need one working shower. We would need a sink in the kitchen, and your oven and your fridge need to be in. Your final for your plumbing needs to be done, and your flooring needs to be in. But because we're on a concrete slab, this is considered finished flooring in our area, but it's not going to be our finished flooring. So I would 1000% rather take the time, do things right, get all the flooring and the tile installed before we do things like install the kitchen, install the vanities and the toilets, because you want to install the flooring before you install those things. So we need to get the flooring in for sure. I want the home to be like 90% complete, builder's grade, before we move in. So that being said, the way we're going to finish the home before we move in is not my final goal for the home. We're going to throw paint colors on all the walls to make it happy and livable. But in the future, I want to do maybe wainscoting. Maybe half the room will be wainscoting, the other half will be wallpaper. Maybe there's going to be more fancy trim work around molding. Those things don't need to be done. And because this is a 3-bedroom home, we can, if we decide to renovate the master bedroom after we're living in here, we can go sleep in the office for a month or however long it takes to renovate the master bedroom, and vice versa with like my daughter's room. Or if we go to do the office, like, I can work on the couch for a month. So there's lots of options there. It doesn't need to be the finished home before we move in, but I want the flooring in. I want all the dust cleaned up. I don't want anything to be done in the home that requires dusting anymore. Things like the kitchen backsplash, I'm not necessarily going to do before we move in. That can be done at a later date. So I will say I would like it to be done enough that we can comfortably live in here, so that if I do any renovations in here in the future, it can be done with ease and not be met with like too many roadblocks. And I think a lot of people say, no, don't do that, you'll never get it done. I think the difference being is that this is also my YouTube channel, and I'm gonna want those rooms done. And it's a part of my job, right? It's not just the home build, it's also the community, the channel, and all of that. Oh, the last part of that question, is the trailer on its last legs? I don't necessarily think it's on its last legs. I do think though that when we're done the build, maybe next spring, I will renovate the trailer and sell it. And there's a few things that need to be fixed entirely, but it still functions. It definitely needs a good do-over. Certain parts need to be replaced. Like it's still a functioning trailer. I don't think that we want to keep it because I think it takes up space. If we were ever to camp, I think we would just take a tent at this point or have a smaller trailer. The only reason we have such a big trailer is because we knew we'd be living in it full time for, I didn't think more than 2 years, but. And the next question is, when do you think you'll be able to move into your house? The goal would be August, September. I think we could be able to move in here. So right now, I'm working on mudding the rest of the house behind the scenes. You'll still be able to see that footage, but I'm not making it into like another 4 weeks worth of videos. I'm finishing up the living room, working on the beam in here. We gotta get these sliding doors reinstalled, the flooring installed, the kitchen. We have the kitchen. Gotta get the tile in the entryway and in the bathrooms. Like there's a fair amount of projects to be done, but I think for the most part, we're on that home stretch. So I think we could move in here by the end of August or end of September. By the time we turn the heat back on in here, I would like to be living in here. I don't want to experience winter again in the trailer. Let's put it that way. It's not even that it's like cold, because it's not. The dehumidifier takes all the moisture out of the air. We have a working furnace, like it's fine. It's that it's small and you can't fit all your winter boots in the entryway, and the floor gets dirty so easily, and there's not enough counter space. It's doable, it's just a pain. It would be the same if it was a tiny house on wheels. It's just a pain. Tiny home living, I don't know how people do it more than 3-4 years before getting super sick of it. I think that for the most part, people try to do the tiny home living to save up for something bigger, which I think is perfectly fine. And if you live in it your whole lives, that's fine too. But we can't do it much longer. And I don't think we'll ever do it again. What is the square footage of your home, the length and width, the height to the beam in the living room? So it is 44 by 28 feet, except for this little section here bumps out, and that bump out is 14 by 5.5 feet. And then 2.5 feet of that foundation are on the outside. It's about a 1,300 square foot home, maybe just slightly smaller. And the height to the beam, I think, is 15 feet to the top. Oh, and they wrote, love your design and planning my own self-build. That's very awesome. I love the amount of people planning their own self-builds in my comments. I see it pretty frequently, and that makes me really happy. Very cool. Okay, let's do some rapid fire questions. Are you gonna spray textures on the walls and ceilings? This was asked a few weeks ago, so I think they know the answer by now because I've already painted my ceiling. I'm not doing texturing. Most people who buy homes with texture on ceilings end up removing the texture because they don't like it. So no texture, just drywall. Are you doing veggie gardens this year? Yes. My goal is to have my whole spigot installed. It's been really hard the last few years without a proper irrigation system. What are your family favorite items to grow in your garden? I would say tomatoes. We love a good tomato sauce. I grew such amazing tomatoes at our old home. I was so proud of them. I love growing squashes. I definitely need to animal proof this whole homestead area, or potentially get a dog in the future to keep the deer away. Like, it's just one of those things. It's a little tricky when you live in the bush because animals do destroy your garden, but you want to work with nature. Next question is, will you have to operate your wood boiler in order to have hot water in the summer? No. So it can fully operate on electric, and you can have hot water tanks that integrate with the wood boiler and run off of propane as well. But ours runs off electric, which I also think is kind of nice because anything to do with propane in our area, you absolutely require a certified propane tech to do anything with. So with electric, if it ever fails, you can just replace it yourself, which is kind of nice. But it is fantastic that the wood boiler can heat it from fall to spring. So nice. What are the plans for the beam in your living room? So right now there's an LVL beam that I actually brought wires for our electrical underneath in order to get it from one side of the house to the other. It is also insulated and wrapped in a vapor barrier, and it is strapped so that it passes electrical code. That way the wire is 1.5 inches away from a nailing surface. I'm gonna build a faux beam to enclose it. And it is a structural beam, it just has to be covered up. So I'm building a faux beam. I'm so excited to share this with you. I'm actually working on it right now, and it's gonna be my next video, so stay tuned. It's gonna look stunning. I've already started it. How are you and the family doing? Thank you for asking. We're doing well. My daughter is in school. They've had 32 snow days this year. She's in her sports. She's fantastic at them. We're excited to move into a home again. To have more space, I think it'll give us a lot of just like, oh, okay, we did it. We can have our own space in the house to be able to like sprawl out. And what animals are you planning on having? At the very minimum, we already have a cat. We would like a dog. We'll see on the breed, but we have our favorites. And then I would, at the minimum, like egg-laying chickens for the homestead. I would also potentially in the future like meat birds, and then maybe goats, maybe, but maybe not. We obviously don't have a property to raise cows unless we were to clear cut, but I think for us to get red meat, I would rather just learn how to bow hunt, and I would also maybe like to learn how to fish. So these are some things that I've never done before, but I think it's a lot more sustainable knowing where your food comes from. So yeah, sorry if you're offended by that. Truly I am. I know it's not for everyone, but we have an abundance of deer here. They will overpopulate if there aren't hunters hunting them. And when they overpopulate, that means there's not enough food supply for them, which means more diseases. It also means potentially running into vehicles. So there are pros and cons to hunting for sure. Ooh, another good question. What does Cam think of IKEA cabinets? So I asked him, and he said IKEA is not necessarily a bad product, but it's mostly in the hands of the user. And they market it as like newbie friendly so that it's easy to install, but that is not necessarily the case. And he said you can also add your own flair to the kitchen by, adding fillers or trims. I will say personally, I don't think it's necessarily the greatest product. Our old home had IKEA kitchens, and the whatever material, that like white material they use outside of either the melamine or the MDF, it delaminates pretty easily. Like it peels off pretty easily. I think there are better options at similar price ranges though. I will say, when we were doing our research, I did come across a kitchen cabinetry company that I was like, oh, you like build the boxes, they ship it to you flat, you build the boxes, and they had like wood-faced doors and stuff, and it was good quality at a better price, but it just didn't come in a lot of options. So I do think if you do some more research, you will find decent-ish quality products at an okay price if you do like the work yourself. Next question is, are you going to sell the skills you picked up when you're done with your own house? I feel like this could be a couple of different questions in one. So like, are you going to sell the skills as in, are you going to like create a course or a book? Or are you going to sell your skills as in, are you going to go start working for like a construction company when you're done your home? I don't think so, but that would be my fallback option. I would say my main goal is to continue doing the YouTube channel. I think at the end of the day, I could go work for a construction company. It was my goal in life to never work for someone again. And so I don't know if I want to work for someone in construction. I think managers need to get a lot better at what they do and how they treat people, especially within the trades. Like, you hear horror stories from everyone in the trades, but the last job I worked, I said I would never work for someone ever again. And so that's like my lifelong dream and goal, is to always be able to provide financially while being my own boss. So that being said, would I be my own boss in this industry? I think that's more likely. I think I would more likely get like a license for septics or build driveways, something I can do with an excavator and tree felling and being outside. I think I'd be more likely to do that than I would to like go work for someone, especially since then I could continue the YouTube channel. And I don't think that there are very many opportunities within construction the way there are on YouTube. When it comes to, there's really no glass ceiling on YouTube. If your channel keeps growing, like your income typically keeps growing. Ooh, good question. What's the, man, I wish I didn't do that, is the way these sliding doors were designed. I'm so annoyed with this. I didn't have enough experience to say, don't do that to the architect, or I'm gonna do it differently than what the plans say, like make it, like adjust it. I didn't have the knowledge. That was dumb the way I did things. I thought it was smart. I looked at videos. The way the sliding doors are at the same plane as the concrete step really screws this up. So this is gonna be quite the fix in the spring. There's so many ideas. I'm considering just lifting it up like a ½ inch some way, maybe with pressure treated wood, lifting the door up and then maybe wrapping that whole thing in blue skin, and then maybe on top of that having some sort of a pan like flashing so that if water does come underneath the door, it can't go past. And then epoxy or silicone the absolute crap out of it. Like, it's such a pain. It is such a pain. I wish I dropped a step down past the sliding doors. I made a mistake with this, I will say. Ooh, I like this. How did you overcome the fear to pick up a chainsaw and begin the process of clearing land? Do you have any channel recommendations that helped you learn? Yes, I do have recommendations. I don't necessarily I have channel recommendations, but I found a few really good videos that taught all these different cutting techniques. And the other thing that I did is I went and I watched so many videos on YouTube about how to cut trees, and I went into the comment sections, and that's where you get a lot of good details, are people commenting below. You can't always trust the comments, but if you're looking at a tree felling video and there's like 20 comments saying that the person is doing it wrong, they're most likely doing a portion of it wrong. So I would read the comments, I would read people's suggestions, but how I got the courage to cut all these trees down is that I started small. I cleared all the baby stuff first, and then I moved on to bigger stuff, and then I moved on to 6-inch trees, 12-inch trees, 18-inch trees, until all that I had left was 2 to 3 foot wide trees. And at that point, I felt comfortable felling the 18-inch trees, that it didn't feel like much of a difference between the 18-inch to the 2 foot to the 3 foot wide trees. That being said, I am not comfortable climbing trees. I will never be comfortable using a ladder when it comes to trees. I will never hold a rope when it comes to felling trees. Don't hold ropes. And last question, what keeps you motivated on the hard days? And do you ever want to quit YouTube? I think those are two separate questions. What keeps me motivated on the hard days? Honestly, being able to vlog it. I have a lot more patience with myself because I get to show the process beginning to end. I get to show the hardships that happen during it, and it makes it so much easier being able to share that with you and knowing I'm not alone in those feelings. That keeps me motivated. Obviously, on those really, really hard days, what keeps me motivated is knowing that I'm loved by my family and my friends and have a good support system, and like genuinely, that is so important, and I'm so grateful for that. And have you ever wanted to quit YouTube? I've never wanted to quit YouTube. I really like that this is my job on YouTube, being a content creator. The times that I find tough on YouTube is when people say that I'm not actually building my own home, or that men are doing it in the background, or whenever I have like one video out of 10 where Craig is helping me, or my husband helps, or a man is in the video for whatever reason when I'm normally alone. And even if they're only in the video for a third of it, I will always get a comment saying how men are doing all the hard work, all the heavy lifting, la da da, or the opinions of like how the family structure looks like is kind of frustrating. Like, where's your husband? Why isn't he helping? What a bad man. And it's like, you wouldn't be saying those things if the gender roles were reversed. You wouldn't even be asking, where's your wife? You wouldn't even care. And then when it comes to those negative comments, it comes with the territory of being online. If you are online, you are going to have to accept the consequences of being online, of people saying mean things or untrue things about you. And then the other hard thing I would say is like when your views start to dip, or like there's a certain topic people don't like watching as much, but you still have to kind of film that content, where you have to think of your thumbnails and your titles. And I find that really tricky. And some topics don't do as well as others, and that kind of feels bad because it's like, oh, well, that took me just as much effort as the other one that hit 500,000 views, and this one only hit 30,000 views, or whatever it may be. But it's still really cool at the end of the day to be like, okay, I have 30,000 views, 30,000 people showed up. Like, that would be insane if you like walked into a building and 30,000 people were there to watch you speak about building. Like, that would be wild. So the fact that 30,000 people show up every week and want to watch my videos, like that is just really humbling, and I'm really thankful for the opportunity to have this kind of platform. Genuinely very thankful. I've never wanted to outright quit YouTube. Never. As long as you guys want to keep watching, I'm gonna be creating the content because it's just really the best of the both worlds. I get to be creative with the vlogging. I get to do cool things and build and run machines and chainsaws. That is it for the official questions that I got. Let me know if you have any others down in the comments. If you're new here and you haven't yet, subscribe, like. Even if you click the share button and copy that link, that is a huge help for the YouTube algorithm. Anyways, we'll see you next week. We've got some really cool build stuff going on. Can't wait to share.